and being able to showcase that story about the Young Ambassador program, but most specifically about young people in New Zealand and what we need. You have to put your hand up because there is no one like you who will be able to answer that question, to tell that story.
Kia ora everyone and welcome to voiceofaroha, Wellington Access Radio 106.1 FM. My name is Aarti and I am joined today by Kodrian. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Aarti?
I'm very good and I'm very excited because we have the, what's it called? The
amazing Vira.
No, the myth,
that one.
The woman, the myth, the legend that is Vira. Welcome, Vira. Welcome to the studio today. How are you doing?
I am very well. Thank you.
I am so glad. Thank you for giving us your time and coming into the studio. We're very excited to have you in here today. Well, we would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners. We're going to pass over the mic to you. Tell us a bit about yourself. What are you up to right now? Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kia ora koutou. My name is Vira. I'm 25 years old. I'm a reformed Aucklander, now living in Wellington.
Welcome to Wellington.
Perfect.
Living in the big city. The easiest way to kind of describe who I am and what I do is that I'm a youth advocate and I'm also a storyteller. So I have a really strong background in the creative arts as a writer, but also a lot of my life has been driven by advocacy specifically for children and young people, especially for those from marginalized backgrounds as well. Yeah. How I spend most of my time, I'm at work. I work at Save the Children as their youth engagement coordinator, delivering all of their youth engagement strategy and kind of in-person engagements. But yeah, I feel like that's a good brief summary about me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing, Vera. And we have a couple of questions for you today. Kodrian, would you like to kick us off with the first one?
So which one we should start with?
Really so many questions to be asked.
Right? And then you just said, I'm just 25 and all these great achievements and great inspiring ways. Which one we should start first? Or maybe your why, Vera, because I'm really interested in someone like you who I've been knowing and following the things you do. It's just great how see like a young person active. So what made you energy? What's give you energy? What's your why to doing all this stuff?
Well, for me, my why has always been creating a world that would have been a good place for a younger version of myself to grow up in. So as, a young woman, as a former refugee, as someone, going through all of these different, big moments in my life, I reflect and I go, what would I have liked to have experienced? What type of support would I have liked to have had around me? Whether that's in the education system, in health, just in the way I navigate my everyday life. And then I just work right now to try achieve them for other young people.
That's amazing. And so you're kind of in that like advocacy space. How did you realize that was meant for you, that was your passion? How did you get into that?
I got into advocacy through debating, and don't hold it against me. I always reflect on the story as like just a testament to what schools can really do for their students if they have the correct resourcing. I had been doing dance for a couple of years and I was slaying at it, might I add. I was really just top tier.
I love that, absolutely.
But then my mum sat me down and was like, hey, I know you love this, but this is really expensive for us. You know, we don't think that you can continue doing this. And I was heartbroken, but I was like, I took it on the chin. I was like, of course, I understand, moving on. And then literally the next day in English class, my English teacher lets us know, hey, we have a debating team. Because one of the year 13s the year before won a big competition, our school got free registration in the comp. And we got every single fee that we had, like individual student fees, school registration fee, all of that was completely covered for X amount of years. So it would have been a completely free experience. And I was like, I need a new extracurricular. I don't want to cause any more financial stress on my parents. Let's just go and check it out. And I was by no means at that point a really confident public speaker. Like, I like to talk. I was a big yapper, but like I couldn't do it in any structured way. But debating really kind of opened my eyes into kind of this wider world of I want to say politics, but really just being able to form an opinion and think really critically, which I think is, the core parts of being in advocacy. So that was kind of my beginning journey. Debating led me into UN Youth. So I was doing so many model UN events.
I love that.
So like in a year, they probably host 4 big events. And there was one year I went to 7. I don't know how.
Was there a favorite country that you got to represent?
Oh, yes. I was Vietnam for AMUN one year, and I got distinguished delegate.
Okay.
Still holding it really
Vira.
strongly. And when I got to be Azerbaijan at NZ MUN.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but the MUN kid is still really strong within me, and that
yeah.
really led me really specifically into international development, which kind of led me into my role now.
Mm-hmm. Can't take the MUN out of the kid.
No matter how hard we try.
So now your current job is working at Save the Children New Zealand. What led to this current role that you hold now?
Well, it's really interesting. I've been really lucky to work with quite a few charities in a lot of different capacities. So I was awarded a Young Humanitarian Award from Amnesty International. I was a Young Ambassador with UNICEF. And I was also one of the keynote speakers for the World Vision Youth Leadership Conference Series. And each of those experiences were so just life-changing for me, being able to see how all of these charities were engaging with their young people, how they were trying to activate young people to be more conscious, but also supporting their own initiatives, that I got really comfortable in the space. And it was also through luck that while I was with UNICEF as a young ambassador, I met the person who had my job at Save the Children.
Wow.
So we had a nice engagement, and I really liked her personality, and she spoke about the work she was doing, and I was like, I wish I could have a job like that. And then the following year, her job was vacant. And I messaged her, I told her I was interested, and she was like, no, you absolutely need to go for it, which is what gave me the confidence to apply.
Tiana.
We love
Isn't she
Tiana. Literally fantastic.
That's amazing. Could you tell us a bit more about your journey with UNICEF and some of the things that you got to do being a young ambassador?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was an ambassador in 2023.
Cool.
That was a fantastic year because I had done like quite a bit of advocacy, volunteering, community work. It was almost like a year of me being able to share the stories that I had collected. So there were a lot of different engagements that some of my fellow ambassadors were hosting in community.
So cool.
But I was really focused on engaging with our stakeholders. So as a program, you know, we were able to connect with people like Deloitte, people like Dentsu.
Hell yeah.
And they were just eager. How do we support UNICEF New Zealand? What are you guys doing? And then me telling the story. This is what the types of young, like this is all of the interesting things that we were doing, and being able to showcase that story about the Young Ambassador Program, but most specifically about young people in New Zealand and what we need. I got to meet Dan Carter.
Oh, cool.
I always have to plug it. That was top tier, and he got to talk to us about the DC-10 Fund and the work that he does to support young people and children getting into sport and physical activity, and his passion is just absolutely off the charts.
I love that.
We were also able to go to Dubai.
Tell us about Dubai. Been waiting for that.
The number one ticket, what everyone wants to know about. So we got to go to COP28, which is the Conference of Parties, hosted by the UNFCCC in Dubai, UAE. So we were there for around 2 weeks, and
crazy.
UNICEF worked really hard to make sure that we had full access to the conference. So the way the conference is set up, there's almost what I would call like a decision maker zone and then a public zone. Public zone, you're getting schools, tourists, everyone. But the decision maker zone, that's where you have very exclusive. That's where you're getting the climate change negotiators. That's where you're getting the CEOs, the business leaders, people who have really active spheres of influence that they're hoping to wield in that space. So we were really lucky to be able to be in that space.
Oh, we love Angus.
Who does amazing hard work for us to support young people. And we were also able to deliver a seminar with Arizona State University, speaking about the experiences of children and young people in the Pacific and how we're kind of responding to extreme weather events. So that was really fantastic, because not only did we get to like go and just be in awe, but we also got to share a bit of taonga about you know what's going on in New Zealand, how we're thinking and feeling, and our hopes for the future.
Whew, that's beautiful. You've already done so much, Vira, and I love your journey. It's so inspiring. Kodrian, what are you thinking? Any thoughts? Any questions for Vira?
I want to know more about Dubai.
Definitely.
I was gonna say we got to ride the camel, we got to dirt bike in the desert.
Cool.
Yeah, not all just work. We had a little bit of play.
So when you're taking us to Dubai?
Next cop, when it comes back around.
Look, this sounds amazing. So, Vira, I'm interested in a question about, did you face any challenges while stepping into such a rules and stuff? Is there was any challenge that then, what was also you did to overtake those challenges?
I mean, specifically for this kaupapa, like the biggest challenge is like representing New Zealand on a global stage, you know? We were only a cohort of 7. 7 people can't represent all of the children of young people in New Zealand. So what do you do to make sure that you're holding space for who you are, what you're bringing to the table, but then all of the children and young people that are still in New Zealand, whose conversations, whose voices have not been heard on this stage. Right. So I think a lot of critical awareness about how much space that you're holding and how much of the mic that you're passing was really critical for me to kind of like overcome the challenge of, should I even be in this space? Do I represent everyone? And just taking that away because I actually can't. Right. And then just doing what I can to really make sure that we can get to a more collaborative, representative place, but not putting that pressure exclusively on myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
And how you think like is important for young people to be confident and just put their hand, just to try?
I mean, like I was saying this earlier, which is the fact that like you are the expert on your life, of your experience, of your perspective, and no one can take that away from you. So when people are, you know, giving you questions or you see an opportunity that relates to something that you understand, something that you're interested in, the perspective that you have is so valuable, you know, and it's a perspective that no one else has as well because of all the unique experiences you have, because of all the unique identities you hold. So you have to put your hand up because there is no one like you who will be able to answer that question, to tell that story.
Yeah,
definitely.
I love it.
That's awesome. So I know that you won an Amnesty Award, which is amazing. Congratulations for that. Could you tell us about what led to you winning this award and how you felt after winning it?
Absolutely. So this was the year, I believe, 2022, when I was with Te Whatu Ora. Well, I was working in mental health, workforce development, and I was really focused on how mental health professionals could support specifically young refugees in accessing services and what they can do to be more culturally appropriate. How do you train professionals to really engage with their clients more safely? And I got to the point where I was like, I don't know if I can solve this problem.
Too big.
Because I was coming into contact with professionals who had more experience being doctors than I had being alive at that point, you know? So they were standing very steadfast in what they had learned and what they believed in. But I knew just, you know, my own lived experience being in community that the way that mental health exists as a taboo in refugee communities is so significant that there needs to be some type of solution. There needs to be something that addresses it head on, which is where I kind of pulled from my background in theater. And I applied to the Amnesty Gary Ware Humanitarian Award with this idea of an applied theatre program specifically for young refugees to combat trauma, to combat kind of difficult emotions and mental distress. So that was the pitch that I went in with.
That's amazing.
And I was thinking, this is so specific, you know, like I like genuinely, I was thinking like, if you're not in the arts, if you don't have experience working with refugees or don't have lived experience as a refugee, you might not understand how important this is. But obviously me, I was like, this is the most important thing to me. But then I did it. I got shortlisted and had a really lovely interview. And then I got it.
That's amazing.
Which was phenomenal. And they were able to, you know, award me some money to actually go out into the community and make it, which was absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. Did you run a theatre workshop?
Yes, I did.
Oh, tell us about that.
So I was able to deliver it alongside Black Creatives Aotearoa and with the support of Auckland Theatre Company. And we were able to have this amazing day. Because as like someone who loves theatre and who loves writing, I'm not an applied theatre practitioner. So I'm not really sure how I didn't really know what it was going to look like for them to apply this theater lens to these really big problems. So watching it, I was kind of just like in awe the entire time. And it was such a big privilege because they were able to take these big ideas and support the young people that we had in the room to really write out their own story, to rewrite their own narratives to a point where there was some healing in that space. So I was really taken by that.
That's beautiful. And go ahead, Kodri.
Just on the topic of the writing, you say you love writing. We know also you write a poem.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, she's a poet.
So what's the story behind that? How that developed and when you find out that, okay, that's really something I love to do?
Oh, well, funnily enough, once again, it comes back to debating, doesn't it always?
We love debating.
When I was kind of like getting out of high school and like the debating and that space was finished, I received like a really nice shoulder tap from one of the adjudicators that I had that they were like, you're just such an amazing public speaker. And I was like, ooh, I haven't considered just publicly speaking. Like debating's a very structured environment. So then I was like, okay, I'll explore public speaking. Public speaking led to spoken word. And then spoken word led to me just really focusing on written poetry and then later plays. But it started with debating. but then kind of slowly evolved after being introduced to spoken word and then being more confident in my written ability.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite poem
that you've written?
Ooh, I do. One of my favorite poems was exploring kind of the refugee crisis in the Ukraine, but how Black refugees were disproportionately experiencing violence in that space, and how it was just kind of this wide, like this open secret that they were being pulled off buses and they weren't being able to evacuate safely. So I was looking, very comfortably that, with my lived experience as a refugee coming out of Congo, just how disproportionately our stories get treated in the media, how either the news stories don't get picked up at all or community, it's almost like we're expected to be treated to this violence. People are like, but then watching the outpouring of love and attention for the Ukraine, I was like, so you do have the capacity for this level of empathy. Because I thought that we just did not care. And I was really, weirdly enough, really comfortable with the idea that people just didn't care about what was going on in the rest of the world. And it hurt deeply to know that they just didn't care about Black and brown people.
Right.
So I wrote about that, which was really healing to kind of confront those difficult emotions, because I can hold space for both crises to exist, but just being able to acknowledge what it meant for my community to see it and not receive it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you think poetry and writing poetry became a big part of your advocacy journey?
Yes, and it's because poetry really exists in a landscape where it can touch people without using facts and figures. Right. Because if facts and figures worked, the problems would have been solved by now. It's gotten to the point where we have to really touch, spirits
People's
and hearts and minds. And poetry became a really good avenue for that because you're talking to people in a language that they can understand.
Yeah. I was actually lucky enough to attend a World Vision conference where Vira was one of the speakers, and I remember after she had finished speaking, like there was people just sobbing. Like, how do you feel knowing that your poetry has like touched so many people and that you are able to get that reaction and get that emotion across to the people you're trying to convey your message to?
It's interesting. I'm kind of like detached from that because I'm really only speaking for myself. I'm only speaking to the younger version of myself in the room. And before I was asked to be on any stage and any platform, it was just for her. And being grounded by that, I'm actually so surprised how often I resonate with people, because I used to think no one understands what I'm going through. I'm so individual in this experience.
I'm the only one.
I'm the only one. So I'm constantly shocked by the amount of people who say, this spoke to me. I really resonated with it because I never expect that to happen.
That's awesome.
And
sorry, go ahead.
So because it's just it's topic, right? Like, it's you mind when you're talking a question about how you look after yourself, how you look after your well-being, while advocacy and all of that. What is something that you do that help you
to stay grounded in all your mahi that you're doing?
I think one of the big things is family, because they don't care about all the stuff I do.
That's so valid.
I wish I could. Like, my family's proud of me, but they don't understand the scope on the range of what I do. So they will humble me constantly.
Right, of course.
They think you're call me big UN. You think you're big in this house? And I'm like, oh no, all right.
Too busy to answer her phone.
Literally. So I feel like being around people who care about you enough to just bring you back down to earth a little bit. Very important.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think also the art of saying no has been really critical, because they got to a point where like a lot of people were like, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. And I was just, yes. And it has been a really healing activity to say no, but to also pass those opportunities on to younger people, to my friends, to people that I know who'd be really good in this space, but haven't gotten the recognition yet.
Right.
So that in ways of, kind of preserving my energy and keeping myself protected, also strengthening the community around me of people doing similar work.
When you have all these opportunities and you're deciding what ones I should take and what ones I should leave, how do you decide what to be like, yep, I want to do that too? 'Cause obviously, I saw on, I think Leilani's story it was, she was like, you can have everything, but you can't have it all at once. And I think that was such an important quote as well, because we want to do everything, but we got to also look after our own well-being sometimes. How do you decide?
I think the biggest thing is like people.
Yeah.
I think it matters who asks me.
Yeah.
Which is that like, Athi, if you send me any ask, I'm saying yes. And that's just a fact. because you don't, I think it's really important to clarify who gets to hold your story.
Yeah.
And when you're sharing something that's like close to you, whether it's lived experience or a perspective that might be niche that might not be understood by everyone, who you share that with is really important. Absolutely. So the people who ask matter. The audience matters a bunch as well.
Definitely.
I will almost always say anything to do with young people.
Yeah.
If it's a youth audience, I'm already in the room.
Yeah.
I would have been there anyway, even if I wasn't speaking.
Of course.
So that's also really important to me. So the impact, but also the people who ask.
Yeah. People that need to like listen to your story and protect everything that you're saying and you as a person. I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Right. I want to ask, what is your dream there? So what kind of question is, but because you know why I'm asking, it's really how cool it is, like someone be active, be all of that. Then the question of dream, because maybe there's some goals, achievement you're working with, if you want to share with us what's, or maybe what will be, if you frame the question, what's your next steps?
That's a good question. I think before the pandemic, I would have been able to give you like a 5-year plan.
I love that.
And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And I think the pandemic really set me on a very nice and flexible, adaptable path.
I love that.
That was needed beyond my own comprehension. No, my dream right now is that I can just keep doing the work that I'm doing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I no asterisk, no addendum.
Yeah.
Like I would happily work for Save the Children, literally for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Any capacity I can be in that supports children and young people finding their space in New Zealand,
totally.
I'm good.
And in terms of anything coming up in like the next week or so, let's say perhaps an international trip to somewhere in France, Paris, anything like that.
I love that you're not primed or anything off the dome.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'll be supporting a youth delegation to go to a Citizens of the Oceans summit.
So cool.
So that's going to be, it's technically in Boulogne-sur-Mer, France, so in the north.
Wow.
But we'll be flying into Paris next week.
So cool.
Nice.
And how are you feeling about that? You a bit nervous or excited?
I'm excited.
I
It is
love that.
wonderful. I think it's such a privilege when, and I felt the same way when we were able to go to Dubai, which is the fact that it's so rare for our perspectives in the Pacific to make it to those global stages that when we do get those opportunity, like we get to make a big splash.
Yeah.
Because especially specifically with this kaupapa, the relationship that New Zealand has with the ocean is so different from the rest of the world. It's it's deeply personal, it's community oriented, it's spiritual, and we know that we get to bring that to the table in a way that no other part of the world will.
Of course,
So I think it's a really big privilege. It's an honor. And I'm excited because the young people that we're bringing across across the pond are also fantastic, you know, well-rooted in climate advocacy with strong, you know, ties to academia. They've worked and they've researched in this space, and they're really excited to kind of just bring their full voices to it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
On that one, on the topic of global, what's the difference between, or the experience between local events and the global? Because you've been doing great stuff and locally and global. How is the experience?
Like comparing the two, which do I like better, or
I mean, despite the Dubai trips. But I mean, how do you feel like what do you feel most that in local laws, listening more, on a global stage, listening more? What do you feel like if you weren't going to an international conference, you think that my voice being heard or locally heard? Any kind
Do you
of
like to weigh the two? What are some things that you would say about both of them?
Ooh, I think being in the global space, I feel more tasked to speak.
Yeah.
I think, once again, the rarity of our position in the Pacific, I think about the rarity of my identities coming together in the way they have in me. I go, how many people in this room look like me, have my experience? Negative five. So I feel compelled to speak more. Where locally, I'm so better placed to listen. I'm excited to be informed by what's happening on the ground because that's where all of that's what directs the work for organizations like Save the Children. When we listen to what's happening with children and young people in their schools, in their communities, in Kaupapa, that's how we build our advocacy essentially. So I think locally, it's about listening. And then globally, it's about kind of sharing those stories.
Love it.
That's amazing. And representing your communities, representing young people, and I guess being a role model. And for people who are like, I want to be like Vira, like me, you're showing people that they can achieve those things, and they just got to work hard, and they just got to stay grounded and humble, and they can achieve anything that they would like to achieve. And so what is your message to young people who want to get into advocacy, want to get into these spaces and make their voices heard? What would you tell them?
Oh, I think, the place I want to start is that if you're advocating for something that comes out of your own lived experience, be mindful and take your time.
Right.
Because sharing your story once is one thing. If you plan on doing it like on and on and on again, you do need to protect yourself and your well-being. Yeah. Make sure that you have people in your community around you to support you, who care about you, who can uplift you. And really get comfortable with what you are willing to share and what you want to keep private.
Definitely.
Because you will enter into some spaces who are eager to take all the parts of your story and give it off to whomever. There are some things that you should keep for yourself. That's really important.
Definitely.
Generally, if you want to go into advocacy and it's not related to your lived experience, find the people who are already doing the work. Because advocacy is built on the shoulders of many, 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 many people. Yeah. And very luckily in New Zealand, because we are so small, it's actually quite easy to find those spaces. Yeah. So I would always suggest kind of going out into your community, figure out who's doing the project that really tickles your interest and start there and then let it build.
Would you say you have quite a strong community around you in Aotearoa?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do. What does community mean to you essentially?
I mean, for me, community kind of just drives everything that I do. Not only is it kind of the water that I drink from that nourishes me, but it's the water that I also pour back into.
Beautiful, yeah.
So I'm nothing without my community. And that's not even just like ethnically or culturally. It's the people that pour love around me, who support me in the work that I do, who humble me when I need to be humbled, whose roots that, grow closely to mine.
Absolutely. Proudly community made.
Always.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing, Vira. Do you have any final questions?
Of course. I don't want to finish it, but it's just a great question about community. Vira, I want to think about what will be like, I will not call it advice or kind of another message. For the young people who would be afraid to face rejection or challenge when they start doing, thriving, because sometimes in like online world, if someone starts something, then there will be a lot of hate comments and stuff like that. That's one example, right? What do you think that the young people can build their confidence to just keep going without giving up by any challenges they face?
I think the most important thing in that circumstance is to reframe. Yeah. So I always like to say that if you're someone who wants to be an actor, winning or being a good actor isn't getting the job, it's auditioning. Right. Doing the auditions is being an actor. You've done it. And in a similar way, if you want to kind of, there's so many different things I could say. If you want to submit to a poetry journal, the job is to submit. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to get it in every single time. Your focus should be on doing the work because everything else is out of your control. Totally. And as someone who has been on both sides of it, there are plenty of reasons why, opportunities don't go to particular people that have nothing to do with them, their capacity, their capabilities, but something to do, actually we need more people from the South Island. Yeah. It could be something as simple as that, So I'm always really, eager to say that just focus on doing what you can do. Yeah. Because everything else, frankly, isn't your business. Yeah. And it saves you a lot of overthinking by just focusing on yourself.
What's meant for you will come your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. What a great choreo. We can keep going and more and more. But, up to you, Arti. You have a question?
That was like a really good conversation. I've been waiting to interview Vira for so long, and I feel like everything that she's told us today means so much, and especially will mean a lot to our young people and our young listeners and the people that are viewing this, and hopefully they get inspired by you to, if they are passionate about advocacy, to get out there and start making a difference in their communities, however and whatever capacity they can, which is amazing.
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah. And we have one more thing that we do for all our guests, which is our little guest messages book, which we give to all our guests. So we have a message from our previous guest to you, which we're going to ask you today, and then we're going to ask you to write a message to our next guest.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. And the question for you is, what's a special place for you in Wellington and why?
Oh, I mean, I've only been in Wellington a year.
Have you find your special place here?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm trying to think very critically. This feels very cliche, but I feel like I have to say the waterfront.
Fair enough.
I've spent a lot of time riding by the water, and it is really different from Auckland in the way that there's just like this open access and so many different like benches where you can kind of just sit and look and ponder.
Yeah.
But like 5 other people are also doing the exact same thing, so I don't feel weird about doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I always feel so much more connected and calm when I'm by the water.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Vira. We really had an amazing time to have you today. And thank you for coming. We appreciate your time and everything you do. And keep it up.
Absolutely.
Thank
you, Vira, for coming in.
Anytime.
Bye-bye.